Welcome to Rambling of a Madman. In this episode, I would like to ramble on about the economy of countries and how some countries got a head start in this equal level field of economics, and the others got a much more late start, and how can these countries benefit, or what are the problems there for these countries accordingly. Let's go back to the past a little bit. In the past, most of the economies were centered around a particular nation, an individual nation, and externally trading is a little bit or less than and today. While time went on, more merchants start traveling and empires grew in size, which helped in world trade. Now, when that happens, and we can see the peak of that world trade and growth of empires in the era of colonization, where British, France, Spanish, and other empires started colonizing the world. Now, in this situation, this colonization was carried out to expand their economy as well as to protect trade as well, because there was an interesting concept, like foreign to now it seems, but your trade ships should be protected by you, your trade paths, your traders should be protected by you, and other countries will not be responsible. So in that case, yes, we have heard all the stories about pirates, and we have heard many stories that different empires going against each other. I think one of the best examples that can be given is when the East India Dutch Company had its own army, had its own navy to protect their assets in trading. So this led to the this led to increase in trade because of increase in empire sizes and the protection that was given along with that increasement. But that was the maximum that the world trade went on. Then of course the collapse of this colonization started with the wars of World War One and World War Two. The European empires started collapsing and gave rise to one of the biggest empires, or we can say it's not an empire, one of the powerfulest countries, United States. And of course there was Russia on the other side, and well, the resulting winner that came up was United States. So most of the European countries and all the other countries got around United States, because United States turned the tables, gave a new meaning to world trade without going through a colonization and so on. It tend to give protection for all trading in countries. Of course, there was a catch, because the United States is the most powerful country in the world. For trading, the US dollar must be used, and Organizations such as the World Trade Organization and the World Banks, these were developed under the supervision of United States. Though a hefty amount of control was there for United States when coming into world trade, it came with a plus where countries can make sure that their goods can be exchanged through this system with the protection of the biggest naval force in the world. And the United States kept their uh, word for the most part, but in some instances they have shown their muscle by sanctioning and so on. That is world politics is in one hand, but things changed. Piracy went down drastically. The world became a stable place, countries became free, and free trade was introduced, where countries should not have a naval power to transport, and even companies doesn't need to concentrate. So the amount of battles fell down, the freedom rose. Was the overall there was a boom in international trade. Now that leaves us to the present. Though access was given to all these countries for free trade under the safety umbrella of United States, different countries actually took different starts. After World War One and World War II, though the colonization powers, countries like United Kingdom, France, Spain, the Dutch, Portuguese, they left their colonies for freedom. But as talked in a previous episode, equality doesn't mean equity, which led these countries to start from the scratch, where they ran into a lot of problems. For example, it's the wealth. None of these countries have the starter kit of wealth with them, because their kingdoms were dismantled, and for most of the countries a new ruling system was introduced, that would be democracy. Not a bad thing at all, but for a newly formed governance system, it will become hard to implement these things, and most of the countries has gone into civil wars. uh, some new countries that were born on after giving freedom by the British and the France, uh, there were many border issues that ran with them, and so on and so on. While these countries struggle to stabilize governance as well as stabilize its economies, the other countries that already built their empires, already had money on their hand, access to technology and access to knowledge, a good education system, and so on and so on, was able to thrive in this free economic world. This can be clearly seen in most companies that are with familiar names, international brands, which were born in the European region. Most of them were pre-war period, especially World War II. They survived through that and was able to get a good start, because they had the technology, the research already has been done, and on the specific machinery or whatever the things they are producing. So they were able to take incremental advantage over this free economic trading system. This of course, you have to understand it is not coming as a criticism. There's no way that I'm going to criticize a better system that was implemented newly, because the previous systems in the world was rubbish compared to this. But what I'm trying to figure out, or what I'm trying to point out, is that through this system itself alone, does countries have an equal playing field? This is the problem. There is lot of companies that are there in Britain, Spain, Germany, France, or lot of trading organizations that are there based on those areas are pre-World War II. And after the free economic system was introduced, where United States of course got a significant advantage, these countries were able to carry out their trading in manufacturing and everything without going back, while the newly created countries and the countries that got freedom newly have to start from the bottom. But with liberalism or neoliberalistic economic policies coming into action in these countries faced a lot of problems. One of the main things are manufacturing, because when colonization was carried out, most of the countries were used as plantation or for mining or extracting resources and wealth. There was no R&D done. There was no big machinery manufacturing done. There was no technological knowledge. There was no universities. So you get the point that while this equality of trade was introduced to the world, there were two starting points, or let's say there are different starting points for different countries. Let's look at couple of examples, shall we? Well, we can say couple of countries that actually got a big advantage and was able to climb the ladder in this free trading environment would be Japan, Singapore, Australia, New Zealand. These countries actually thrived. But while the next example would be India and China. Let's take these two countries, pretty much in the Asian region. These two countries, one is at the moment, at present, is doing very well in their economic ways, but the other isn't. Though India has come a long way, but most of the country is in poverty. This is not a secret, but India is doing maximum that it can to overcome these issues. But what is the difference between two countries that have a population over 1 billion each, that means have the ability to create their own markets and cherish, is not one is actually have climbed a ladder for a significant amount while the other isn't? Well, China used a different method to climbing the ladder. Regardless of the free trade system, they went for their own system and they tried their own economic methods to climb the ladder, which arguably is successful. While India stuck with the international trading and free trading, they went into economics of neoliberalism. So what happens when that particular point is this: India started to use new principles of economy because there is less amount of production, new developments in India. It was more, in the beginning it was more based on agriculture. According to new economics, they have to import what is cheaper rather than building it, isn't it? Like, if you have to import, even if importing machinery is cheaper for them rather than building it inside the country, that means, according to the new methods of economy, it is easier for them, it is cheaper and good for the economy just to import them rather than building it. They can balance the surplus by maybe exporting agricultural products. This was the bottom line. Though theoretically it seems good, it seems plausible, but when coming into practical level, that is not. Countries that produced heavy machinery, complex machinery, have numerous advantages and have a powerful economy, while countries that only stick to agriculture or some other based we can say simple methods of earning money, have big economic problems in the practical world. Think about economies that were thriving on tourism, island nations, Indonesia, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Maldives. These are Asian countries that were thriving on tourism. But so the theory, we can say the neoliberalistic economic theory would be to earn money through tourism, and they can import other products that is needed for the country cheaply from other countries. But when corona struck the world, tourism grinded to a halt, and here we are, that showing that is not practical. Because all these countries, their lifelines, their good percentage of their economy is totally destroyed by this. So that is why that is a method to show that why China, by closing itself, was able to build these industries internally and to build their technologies internally, and as well as to build their we can for the best example would be the world have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. China has their own YouTube, Facebook and Instagram. So they took their market of 1 billion people for themselves rather than distributing it throughout the world, and they succeeded to have a great economy. So that's the only way that they were able to equalize their economies with European economies, while countries like India, who wanted the neoliberalistic economy to work, didn't receive the benefits that it was promised. And China, which went against that method, took advantage of the method that the world is running on and build their own system just to climb up. What I'm trying to say here is, though liberalistic or the free trade in the world rather than using liberalistic, because I read the article on neoliberalism, and I was thinking, though this is a great concept, it's a great concept for countries who are already in higher positions in economy, technology, commerce, education, and so on, where the roads are built, where the infrastructure is built, where there's, for them exporting high technological products can be achieved. But for countries in Asia, or countries in Latin America, countries in Africa especially, they don't have the resources, the power, the knowledge, the infrastructure to face the free markets with full strength. But the thing is, the countries that introduced these free market concepts and everything have to find a way to help these countries that are suffering because of free market concepts. Because if China found another path to become equal with countries that are benefiting from free market, other countries may tend to do that. And it is a very popular thing among some countries to buying products, trying to create their own industries inside countries. With the coronavirus, these concepts are accelerating because countries that depend on exporting natural resources or tourism, or exporting in small products such as textiles or plastic materials, are actually suffering because trade has fallen down, and they will move to alternative systems otherwise. How to clarify that I am not an economist and doesn't understand the complexity of economy, and this is just a rambling of a madman. I was trying to understand the neoliberalistic economic views, or trying to understand the free trade that is in the world. But from the things I saw throughout my life, the thing that came into my mind, though this system that is there in the present is a very good positive system compared to the past systems, countries that were already developed or has a good solid foundation when stepping into this system has an advantage. But if you try to apply this to countries with low levels of infrastructure, education, technology, resources, and so on, they struggle. And the only solution that they will see is to cheat on this system, maybe the way that China used an alternative system to rise up on the free trade market, or even or even because countries like in the Middle East have resources of oil to climb up. Maybe because there are different countries, even India, pushing forward to the manufacturing, to pushing forward concepts such as Buy India, to create, manufacture, and uh, to buy from India, to create a market internally. And I think accordingly this is, but then India is a country, India, Brazil, these countries are countries that has vast amount of people, and like China, they can make their huge internal markets where in the future, in the coming future, that will benefit them. But what about the small countries? There, there in itself lies the other problems, because for them to create an internal market, they don't have enough population. So these are a few thoughts that came into my mind. I looked at what I have seen in my life, and this ramble was carried out. But I there do I see a solution? No, I don't. But what I'm trying to do through this episode, this podcast episode, is to shed a light on the listener that even though there are advantages in a free market systems during this pandemic era, especially some small countries with poor economies are struggling. Whoever is struggling is a human being like you and me, and if you are a person who can influence the world, I think they have to look into ways of promoting, because there are many programs that were run by the UN, the European Union, United States, Canada, many agreements, many programs that were run just for facilitating this, many programs that were run just to facilitate countries that have a disadvantage in this system, and that is great, that is admirable. But I think there should be more, because if you are letting a country just hang on tourism, or you are letting a country just hang on small agricultural products, or basic products such as plastics or textile or something like that, that country will suffer in the long run. Well, it is a mad rumble, but have to understand that the system that we have created now, the present day system of trading, is the best that we ever had, the complicated that we ever had, and it gives access, this civilization, that the global civilization that we have built, have given freedom and access to wealth for all people, regardless of color, race, nationality, religion, or whatever. Though there are many examples to say otherwise. If you check with history, the current trading system is the best that we ever had. But to preserve that, all countries should reap benefits or able to access benefits of this. or otherwise they will look into alternative methods that can lead into harmful end results. We don't know whether the systems will adapt and change for better good in the future, or things will fall apart. We just don't know, because change is a common thing in life. But the thing we know is the current system is one of the best that is there and in the present, and we have to find ways to create an equal level playing field for all countries, to create safe economies, to help humanity overall. Thank you very much for listening. Have a nice day. Be safe. Have a healthy life. Aibowan.